think of in here. Balmy Beach legend by the lake. The Balmy Beach Club has served Toronto, the beach community, and its amateur athlete members since 1905. That's not true. They've been here before. If you look in the next part, Sir Adam Wilson, Mayor of Toronto from 1859 to 1860, deeded the land to the residents of the beach June 12, 1903. That's not true neither. Well, I'll just read it. Well, they don't want to argue what they can't do. The property was designated Balmy Beach Park as a promenade, and management of the park was vested with a board of control. It's baloney. Once on council, Wilson thwarted CNR plans to build a railway line through this area. Without his leadership, railway tracks would now adorn our beaches. That's baloney again. The first clubhouse was opened in 1905. Fire destroyed the original building in 1936. It was rebuilt only to have fire destroy building in 19. That's true. Again, members waste little time in rebuilding the club. Let's go over to Sir Adam Wilson. Sir Adam Wilson was also one of the premier judges in Toronto. He was knighted, Queen Honor. He gave the land to the people of the area before East Toronto was even here. He owned all the property from McLean Avenue over to probably where Beach Avenue is on here. He deeded the land for the people. There was no village of East Toronto. There was no city of Toronto on here in 1875. That's the original deed. Now, they can argue all they want. He even wrote a book on it and everything. But I've got the original things on it. 1875 was the date that Sir Adam Wilson gave the land to the people of the area. Later, when the village of East Toronto, remember there were cottages and everything here. Prior to that, there was no village of East Toronto at that time. So they couldn't have even been in there. So later they had a lot of, the lawyers made a lot of money on this thing, because the people who owned the land and everything adjacent to it, they wanted to use this on their butt. The property was through Adam Wilson to the people of the area. Later, when it became a town and a village, they started to use the property. In 1903, well, how would you call it? They were using it just spontaneously for different activities because it belonged to the Wilson estate. So they wanted to use this for the boathouse, use it for everything on. The first lawn bowling was on Balsam and Queen on here. And they decided with John McPherson Ross, I was telling you, he was the councillor for this area. East Toronto had 3 areas, Ward 1 from Queen up just around Kingston Road, the other one Kingston Road to Gerrard, and Ward 3 up there. And he owned most of this land. He needed to. There was no village of East Toronto. The city wasn't even over here at the time. The city stopped at McLean Avenue. So when they tell you about the Board of Control, there was no Board of Control did it on there. They had problems. They had financial problems later on. But this became a club in 1903, supposedly on there, through the village of East Toronto on here. It belonged to them, not to the city. The city didn't take this over again until 1910. Once on council, this thing, I don't know where they got this. Once on council, Wilson thwarted CNR plans to build a railway line through this area without his leadership. Railway track. That's true. The railway wanted to build a railway track all the way along from the islands right over to the bluffs and on. But Sir Adam Wilson died in 1892 on here, and they put through the leadership of 2 prominent lawyers and John McPherson. They were the ones who took the case in 1906 and 7 to the city and to the federal government and stopped the railway from coming in. Sir Adam Wilson was dead years ago, so I don't know why they put it on there. The first club, well, the other things were all in there, but on there. So, but for some reason, I don't know.
Was he a member of the club?
Well, this is this is why when people are going by and they've seen some of my art. The guy even wrote a book. He wrote 2 books on here. So you know, and I wrote a thing, but I never published it. But you know, I get all my facts straight. I even had a prominent lawyer at one time. They wanted, we got to be careful here, the neighbors around me, there's 3.5 acres. Now, through this, how would you call it, leadership of Sir Adam Wilson, he donated the land to a couple of other people, his wife, who died, Lady Wilson, and a few others. And some of the people who owned the property on here wanted to take the Balmy Beach Club to court. And on because you know the city eventually took it over, and you know, and to this day it's still where the parking lot. It still stands a little bit questioned, but you know where the property begins and where it is. But the idea of the Balmy Beach Club itself for recreation purposes, nothing. And I've gone through on it. Nothing challenges the people who come here, you know, with their kids and everything. And for the last 112 years, right from 1903, they had so much. Please, you know, every person that you can think of who was involved in sports, recreation, anything of that nature, from rowing, everything, they were here. No other club that I saw in Ontario or in Canada had as much doing as this. It's a historic. I never even put this on. I tried to put it on a historic place, but you can't because the buildings were burnt down and everything. But the area, you know, is and still continues to be to this day. You know, the rugby, they play everything that you can think of on here. One of the greatest things historically, well, not as a building, because the building, like I say, burnt down on here. And that thing, the legend of the lake, that is a proper indication of it. Are there any questions on it? No? Okay.